And what a magnificent sight. Marathon Stadium hosting the continuation of the qualifying finals here in the twilight of Newcastle. And this crowd, they've been pouring in since they opened the gates at around about 3 o'clock. And I tend to think that they can't let any more in. I think the capacity here now is around 25,000 people. Formerly the ground record was in the low 30,000s, but now with some corporate boxes and what have you, I think the maximum is somewhere around about 26,000, and I think the house full sign has gone up. Wonderful crowd in to see the Newcastle Knights take on the Sydney Roosters, who've proven something of a thorn in their side, particularly here at Marathon. The last 5 times the Roosters have come here, they've gone away with 3 victories and a draw. So Newcastle, even with 25,000 people pushing them on, would not be overly confident against Brad Fittler and Graham Murray's Sydney Roosters, who finished 6th in the premiership after 26 rounds. They go out now for battle, and they've only just really started to reassert themselves as a premiership threat with some good form at the back end of the premiership. Vital to their cause, of course, is Brad Fittler. It's a windy night, and that big boot of Fittler will certainly play a part, as will the boot of Andrew Johns. Craig Wing has been in scintillating form. Some of the pressure for him, of course, has been taken away in more recent weeks with Paul Green's return. And a sea of red, white and blue. Obviously both clubs enjoy the same colours, different designs, as Andrew Johns takes his beloved Newcastle Knights out there. Johns is only a few points away from becoming the first half-back in a season to score 250 points. Let's have a look at the cards now with Peter and the Chief.
And with Julian Bailey out injured, this is the strongest side the Knights can field. O'Davis at fullback, Tahu and McDougall the wingers, Gidley and Hughes the centres, Rudder at 5'8", Andrew Johns captain and half-back. Billy Peden locks the scrum, Simpson, Kennedy the second rowers, with Perry, Badiris and Parsons the front row. A very strong and experienced bench. Marquardt, O'Brien, Grief and Darren Albert has passed a fitness test to take his spot. Coached by Michael Hagan.
And here's the lineup here for the Roosters. Phillips at fullback, Flannery and Minicello are on the wings, Hegarty and Singh in the centres. Now Fittler and wing. Fittler is the captain in the halves. Ricketson will make up the lock. Fletcher, Fitzgibbon in the second row, Morley and Lomu in the front row with Simon Benetti in the hooking role. The interchange, Cusack, Croker, Green and Witters, and Graham Murray is the coach.
And our sideline eye tonight, it's welcome to one of the great hookers, Steve Walter. Steve, good evening. What's your weather like down there?
Yeah, thanks, Ray. I'm really looking forward to this one. Weather-wise, it's partly cloudy, about 22 degrees. We've got a west-northwest breeze blowing, so great conditions to play football. I think the Knights will be too strong tonight, but even though they've lost 4 of their last 5 finals games.
Bill Harrigan in charge of this qualifying final tonight. Newcastle's record under Harrigan, not all that flash. I think he's had them 50 times for 19 wins by the Newcastle Knights, as Lomu is the first to take the ball back to the opposition, back on his own 10 for the Roosters, as they come away from the northern end of this ground here at Marathon. Packed to the rafters, wonderful atmosphere. This is Morley, the Englishman, out and tackled on the 20-metre line now. Oh, he's gone forward in the play the ball, and Harrigan
Accidentally kicked it out.
just double checking with his touch judge.
Well,
and he's going to put a scrum down. Gee, that's a devastating start for the Roosters.
I can't remember ever seeing anything like this, Ray.
Well, I think Matty Parsons has hit that back with his heel. A little sneaky one there.
Now he's given a scrum penalty.
Adrian, yeah. You're winning that scrum like a rhino. You just charged straight at him. I want you to come in like that. You went straight at him like a head. Using your head, you went in like a bulldozer. Not on.
Well, he's penalised Morley for the way that he's packed into the scrum. He said you went in and you hit him like a rhino.
Well, what a bizarre start to this game. There's no doubt Matty Parsons actually raked the ball, well, didn't rake the ball back. It came off his foot. And then that man on screen, the Englishman, Adrian Morley, he is a firebrand, but he's just charged into that, put the head into the chest of Matty Parsons.
Peter, he's been penalised for foul play, so it's not a differential penalty. It's a shot for goal to Newcastle after you saw the play the ball. Parsons was the offender. That put us into the scrum. Then Morley's gone for foul play, and Johns raises the flags. It's Crazyville. 2-0 in favour of the Newcastle Knights. What a start. Certainly nobody would have dreamt of that.
And on the way back to the restart, Bill Harrigan has had a chat with Adrian Morley, just stressing as to why he gave that penalty, as Fittler restarts after just 2 minutes.
I've got no drama with the penalty against Morley, but I'm surprised that with the assistance he has, both on the field and in the video referee's box, that the play the ball incident was allowed to get by. Here's Parsons now, the man in question. Tackled 22 metres out from his own line. And Badiris it is that gently puts it away for Peden. Cautious as we go. That has been pretty much the case in the last month of football. Kennedy, who's been in superb touch. Strange, isn't it? After Origin won, both Kennedy and Hindmarch, they got the axe and they've come back with all guns blazing as Johns puts a kick in. Oh, that's a lovely take by Minicello. Minicello angling across the park to the 30-metre line, takes 2 in defence before getting his fullback Phillips 10 metres further down the ground. 2-0 in favour of Newcastle.
And Andrew Johns is in Disneyland. He's in all sorts of trouble as Flannery goes through. Johns can hardly stand up. In fact, he can't. It's the 3rd or 4th time he's fallen over.
Fittler spreading the ball out to Craig Fitzgibbon. And Fitzgibbon tackled on the 30-metre line. Well, Johns is back in the defence line, but Peter's seen it as it was. He fell over 3 times, obviously heavily concussed, and now he's back in the defence line. Fletcher. Johns is on the blind side. Fittler is aiming it at him. Then the grubber kick. Minicello will get a try out of it. Minicello has scored. Harrigan doesn't bother going for the video. Doesn't have any need to. He saw what we saw. They ran the play at the blind side where Andrew Johns was. Here's the injury coming up. It is 4-2. The Roosters in front. He copped the hip of Billy Peden. It put him into Disneyland.
And what a start for Minicello. A great take at the other end of the field to start this set of 6. And he takes advantage of a tremendous bounce for his side over the head of Robbie O'Davis. And Minicello plucks it out of the air to get the first try. Lovely kick from Fittler going to the line. And you'll see Fletcher take the tackle. And at the end of the set of 6, Fittler, everybody on side. An awful bounce for the Novocastrians. A beauty for that man.
Minicello, his 14th try of the year. And Fitzgibbon from 10 in and 20 out. It's online, it's still online, the flags are up. The Roosters have struck back early. It is 6-2. Roosters over Knights after 6 minutes. What a start. Some people hadn't even taken their seats and the scoreboard attendant had put up 2-0.
Stay behind.
So 6-2, a converted try to the Roosters. And here they are running the kickoff back through Morley, who's been at the centre of the storm early on in the game. Lomu is the number 10, the other prop forward. That entire appearance has changed for the Roosters, the front rowers. They certainly weren't there at the start, Lomu and Morley. Not in the engine room anyway, as Fitzgibbon is about to be tackled just inside his own 40-metre line. He plays it back to Simon Bonetti. And to the right of the ground to Fittler's boot. The breeze was with them in the first half. O'Davis off his own 10-metre line. Before he starts his progress, the crowd starts to roar. One of the heroes of Marathon.
I've got to say, it's the worst possible start the Knights could have. Not just that try being scored and converted, but I tell you, Andrew Johns is still tripping over his feet. I know that the trainers are trying to pull him off. He wouldn't come off. He wants to stay out here. It's such a big game, but a bad start for the Knights.
So this is Josh Perry now. They're taking the plays through the forwards in this set of 6. Johns almost neglected out in the playmaker position, and they roll the ball into touch. I don't even know whether in fact Johns was calling for the ball. They just kept going down the blind side, simple little forward plays.
I think you're right, Ray. I don't think he touched the ball in that set of 6, and that never ever happens in this Newcastle side.
Well, he's a tough little fella. He went down 3 times.
That's better, Adrian.
Picked
Good
himself
stuff.
up, got back in the defence line, but then Fittler, he realised he had a problem and he aimed an attack, the final attack.
Okay, now let him up, fellas. 1. Up off him. Quick, mark it straight.
It's 1-1 this year, the Roosters in round 15.
Here we are. Don't go early.
And that's the incredible thing of the 4 qualifying finals we're seeing this weekend. They all stand at 1-1.
3. Here we are. Pull back. Let him up, quick. Once you made that tackle, get away, right away from him. That's 4.
This is Morley again, just outside his own 30-metre line for
5 lines,
Shannon
let him up
Hegarty
there,
now.
quickly.
To the 40-metre line, converted try scored by Minicello, and the extras added by Fitzgibbon, who's after his own place in history with a couple of 100 points for a forward in a season. Should come here tonight. O'Davis,
2 now, leave him, Luke.
30 metres out from their own line. Little mousetrap play by Newcastle. And McDougall! McDougall's got one to beat. Oh, Phillips has felled him long enough for the team to regather and regroup. From Gidley, Johns cuts out Kennedy, and it's out wide for Peden. Peden to the 10-metre line. Lovely break by McDougall. Kennedy, Johns. He's aimed it across for Simpson. Simpson for Gidley. It's on the ground for Tahu. Scoop back for Simpson. Simpson's 15 out. Johns is with it. Turns it back into the middle of the ruck, and there it's fallen on by Fletcher. Lomuna.
2 now, let him up, let him up.
20 metres out from their line. Now they're 30 metres out. With Matt Singh playing the ball. Fletcher. Grand finalist from last year, the Roosters.
Tremendous tackle there from Luke Phillips on Adam McDougall, one-on-one. Of course, in the grand final qualifier last year, when the Knights got run down after a 16-2 lead at half-time, Luke Phillips was a star that evening as well for the Roosters. As Robbie O'Davis takes the bouncing ball, the chase is good. Fittler, who kicked, leads the charge. Oh.
O'Davis has flung it out the back.
And gone forward.
And Fittler has forced this mistake from Newcastle. It's been ruled forward from O'Davis. He's disappointed. Fittler kicked, led the chase, put everybody on side, then forced O'Davis to do that. So the Roosters come up with a loose head and feed. There's the face of O'Davis and the reaction.
Gee, I think it's a tough call. I didn't see that ball go forward.
Yeah, I thought it was too, but that's something or a part of the game. The Knights were people a little bit critical of them last week. They had a big win over the Penrith Panthers, a little bit loose with the ball and also obviously in defence, but something they've got to watch.
Oh, Hegarty is so close to the line. 4 tackles left on the set. Fittler jinxed, then takes the tackle. Simpson rounded him up. Bonetti through to Fletcher. Fletcher across now for Fitzgibbon, wide. Couple left on the set. 8 metres out from the line for Fletcher. Now through to Ricketson. He puts it on the stomach of Lomu. And Lomu will play it on 5. Fittler's off to the right. Calls the play. Puts the grubber in behind them. McDougall's got the problems now. McDougall miraculously gets it back into play, beating 2 defenders.
Well, how strong is he? He's a tremendous athlete. That last run he had before, he ran straight over the top of, I think it was Craig Fitzgibbon. You just see here the strength of the man. He's unbelievable.
Well, they might be down on the scoreboard, but As far as form is concerned, it's a good sign for Newcastle with McDougall doing everything right. Badeiros now takes on the responsibility out of dummy half. The ball is raked.
Last little bit was a knock on. You did get 6 again.
He's ruled it's a knock on against Badeiros.
And the last bit, Ray, he actually said it was 6 again after that, but in going back to get the football, there's a knock on. Well, that's gone back to mine, but he's picked up a knock on late, not with the initial contact.
So Craig Wing off for Brad Fittler now. Fittler held on the halfway, able to get the ball away. A couple of defenders went with Fittler. Fitzgibbon works it across for Phillips. Phillips goes through the forwards. Then he goes across to find Hegarty. Hegarty's able to stand and offload an ordinary ball. Craig Wing is able to bring it in, and Wing is tackled by Kennedy. 45 out from the line for Fletcher to take his turn now. And Simpson and Parsons drive in. There's a third forward under there. It's Peden. 40 metres out from the Newcastle line. 6-2 Sydney Roosters as Hegarty drives it out the back for Bonetti. Bonetti away for Morley. Now they come to the last line of defence. Craig Wing is there. 20-metre line, centre of the ground. Bonetti. Fittler. Cut-out ball for Singh. Throws the dummy, goes himself, he's into touch in goal. That is magnificent Knights defence.
Well, if you're praising the tackle of Luke Phillips earlier, have a look at this one of Robbie O'Davis. Taking Matt Singh head on, a metre from the line, and with the help of McDougall, they deny him.
Well, I can tell you for something for sure, the Newcastle Knights have been concentrating on their defence. They are the worst defensive side in the top 8. And still a few problems there. There's a few holes. I've been watching Joey Johns particularly closely. He's still not right. He missed the tackle there on Adrian Morley before, which he normally wouldn't. And it's just still a little bit off his game.
This is Gidley on the far side of the ground. Long lofted pass for Johns, and now they've got an overlap. Kennedy probably spoiled it a little bit. All it needed was a catch and pass. Here's Hughes up the middle. They find an opening. Peden puts it down for a knock on. Well, I might be wrong, but I just think it was a matter of catch and pass from Ben Kennedy, and they certainly had 3 on 2.
Well, again with the knock on, that was interesting too. He was definitely facing behind, I thought, for my mind. But I'll tell you what, Ben Kennedy has been one of the best players, consistent players in the second row all year. You see here Billy Peden passing that ball there to Sean Runner. It goes behind. Well, I stand corrected. There's a knock on there from Mark Hughes. I thought Sean Runner picked it up from that position.
This is Minicello now. 4-2 the error count against Newcastle. Fitzgibbon. Just repeating, Newcastle got a penalty goal. Now Fletcher loses it 1-on-1. It'll be play on. They've got a penalty goal in the first minute to lead 2-0, and then Johns was knocked cold, and while he was injured, they scored a converted try, the Roosters, against them, which brings us to 6-2. The Newcastle Knights attacking. Andrew Johns has taken very little part in the game. He's trying to get himself back together, and the others are doing the job at the moment. Now he comes into the play. Badeiros, Johns, Parsons. It Parsons! Big Matt Parsons! Parsons is a metre from the line. Back to Badeiros, a long ball. Rudder, now Peden. Gidley will score. Gidley gets it in the corner. Lovely ball promotion. Bill Peden did his job, but Matt Parsons, he laid the foundation.
Yeah, they get the ball from one side of the field to the other better than anybody else. Badeiros forces the mistake from Brian Fletcher. Matt Parsons, what a charge from the big man. A change in play back to Matt Parsons. Standing start off Lomu, pushes through Bonetti, gets rid of Fletcher, and finally Phillips takes him down. And then it just needs to get to the far side. As we freeze it there, you can see that they've got number shortage out there. Look at the Knights players. This is the key man, Sean Rudder, as play continues. He throws the big pass. Billy Peden out there, draws the winger. He should have stayed out really, Chris Flannery. I don't know if they could have stopped it anyway, but the Knights hit back.
It's a great try. It's taken a while to get back on their feet and attack and organise with Joe, as we said before, but Matthew Gidley done the job. I've got to say that Matt Parsons, those big legs are like tree chunks pumping at you. Nearly scored a try himself.
What an awesome task it was for Luke Phillips. Parsons coming at him head on, and the line only a metre behind him. He did very well, Luke Phillips. Johns from touch. 21 out. Over in front of a packed hill. On the eastern side, it's on its way. It doesn't look bad. It is there. Great kick from a man that was concussed 10 minutes ago. It is 8-6 Newcastle now.
Successful to Andrew Johns. The flight 798 Roosters 6 here at Marathon Stadium in the Telstra Premiership.
As we welcome you back, watching the qualifying finals of the Telstra Premiership in the National Rugby League. It is night 2, and following our match, you will see the other big one tonight. The Canterbury Bulldogs up against the St George Illawarra Dragons. Now, Newcastle running it out. Steve Walters has spoken to one of the trainers. What's the latest on John, Steve?
Yeah, well, judging by that last kick, it was a good report. The doctor has said that he's okay now, Andrew Johns, so he's looking good.
Here's Mark Hughes turning McDougall back in. He got away from Craig Wing. Pulled down on the halfway line is McDougall. Now Josh Perry running the play of Ricketson, Lomu and Bonetti. They come down the short side with Rudder throwing a dummy for Kennedy. He's tackled 31 metres out from the line. Played back for Danny Badiris and away for Andrew. He steps and beats one. His kick came off one of his own players accidentally offside, and Harrigan will put a scrum down, and the Roosters should get the feed. I would imagine, unless it's the turnover, it is turnover time. That Knight is accidentally offside, and it came at the time for turnover anyway.
It's been a very good aspect of the Roosters play tonight, the pressure they're putting on the kicking game of Andrew Johns. They realise how important that is to the Newcastle side, and they're getting through, making him come up with a decision quicker than he would like.
Phillips to the halfway for Hegarty. 8-6 Newcastle now.
Now 3. We are holding here, hold.
9 missed tackles against the Roosters, 4 against the Knights. Here is Wing and then Ricketson. One of those missed tackles, of course, for the Knights was down. I suppose it was accredited at the time they scored that try. Fittler across for Fletcher. Fletcher taken by Rudder. Got the ball away at the last moment. It's on the ground. Newcastle have got the ball.
Got a loose ball.
Harrigan is calling for advice or opinion from the touchies.
2-1, we're going to put the ball down for a scrum.
There were 2 in the tackle. There they are on that occasion, but I fancy there were 2 get involved here as well. This is the one that counts, and there are. The ball comes away. Did it get some help from the Newcastle Knights? And Harrigan's decided no. Newcastle's loose head and feed on their own 40-metre line, 20 metres in from the eastern side, as O'Davis comes up into his back line. The opposite number 1 makes the tackle. Phillips played back to Hughes. Hughes away for Kennedy. Kennedy operating down this corridor on the western touchline, the short side. Hughes goes away, angling back in. Tackle 15 metres in from touch. The crowd roars for a penalty as it goes away from Badiris. Over for Johns. Johns comes to Bonetti. The ball goes on the ground. Peden, he can't get a hand on it. Now he does. Picked it up well, as a matter of fact, the second time. And he's tackled by Morley. Now it's for Rudder.
5 last. Got him up now, Adrian. Quick, back to me, fellas, back.
Back into the middle of the park, and Johns puts the kick up. Davis is onside. McDougall's onside. There's pressure here. It's come down to an offside player. Matt Singh has been ruled offside. It must have come off Minicello. I wasn't sure that Minicello actually got a touch on it. Here it is. And it has come off his leg, and Singh is offside. So a penalty goes to Newcastle inside the 20-metre line. Fittler just asking the question. And John says, I'll kick for goal. '22nd minute of the game, and this was Johns in that moment where he got injured. In attempting a tackle, he came in contact with the hip of Bill Peden. Then he picked himself up. He is not with us there. He got up, he fell over 3 times, trying to get back in the defensive line. It was a very serious situation, and then he got back on his feet and they aimed the attack at him to score a try. But he's now recovered. 20 metres out, 12 in from touch, looking for 10-6. There goes the kick. It's hit the uprights and gone through. It is 10-6. The home side in front. A comment from Steve Walters' sideline.
Well, I think it's the strangest start I've seen for a finals match ever, the first 22 minutes here. We've had everything. Been really great to watch, but I don't think Michael Hagan will be enjoying it quite as much as what we are.
Davis on the kick return. So with that goal, Andrew Johns becomes the first half-back to score 250 points in a premiership season. He might not even be able to remember it, although the doctor has told Steve Walters that he's okay now. Played by Parsons. It's away now for Johns, and Johns turning it in for Kennedy. Kennedy on the 5th tackle now as they go to the right, and then Johns puts a kick in. Was he taken out late? Phillips comes back. Harrigan said play on, and Phillips is grounded 3 metres on Newcastle side of halfway. From Minicello, Fittler, Ricketson. Ricketson is the ball carrier, and he's tackled. 35 out, penalty goes against Newcastle. He was playing an advantage rule.
That was a very good advantage there from Bill Harrigan. They never backed the 10, but he gave Luke Ricketson an opportunity to create something out wide for the Roosters. There you can see 3-4 metres in front, Adam McDougall, so too Mark Hughes. Decision now to be made as to whether to kick for touch or try the 2. It's only 35 metres out, and Craig Fitzgibbon has come across to try and cut the deficit 2-2.
Bill Harrigan calling timeout. Fitzgibbon calls for the kicking tee. Johns has just received further attention, not to his head, but to the groin that is a continuing problem. Trainer was working on him there, and they were in deep conversation at the same time. Fitzgibbon from 35 out, he converted the try scored by Anthony Minicello, and if he kicks this, he'll be 2 points away from the 200 club. First forward in over 20 years to go through the 200 points in a season. But he's 4 points off it now. This kick in flight is getting there. No, just away. And O'Davis is able to mark it in goal and bring it back, and it's a good run from O'Davis, which hasn't ended yet. In fact, it ends just outside the 20-metre line. Johns, they've got numbers out here. Hughes, catch and pass, and McDougall got it just a shade behind him.
Too many mistakes by the Knights at this end of the field. Andrew Johns particularly upset that this went astray. Actually had too many people there creating that overlap.
Seconds in. Seconds are in.
He doesn't mind showing his disappointment either, Andrew. He was demonstrative. Now, Phillips has lost it. Gidley offloading immediately for Peden. Peden back on his own 40-metre line. Gidley for Simpson. Just into the Roosters' half of play. Play back for Danny Badiris to use Matt Parsons, who's able to take another 15 metres. Replacement time.
First one already out there, Ray. Cusack on for Lomu, who did a great job early as Peden gets swamped by Adrian Morley.
Through the courtesy of a shocking pass. Ball to ground for Bonetti to get possession back for the Roosters. It came off Andrew Johns. Both have used one interchange. The Roosters about to make another as Morley comes off. And Michael Crocker has gone out there now. The 14 is Cusack with the ball. So both have now made two interchanges. As Ricketson is called on to play the ball on the halfway line. Craig Wing through to Fittler. Across Fitzgibbon, picking up Hegarty. He's lost the ball and got it back. Now, it may be that it touched a Newcastle player, which would constitute a knock-on. If you lose the ball and you regain it before it hits the ground, that's okay. But if it hits an opposing player before that happens, and I'm thinking that's what's happened. Yes, that's exactly what's happened, and that constitutes a knock-on. It happened last night. I remember going through the rule on that occasion with you as Johns works it off for Gidley. And Gidley is tackled just a couple of metres on the Newcastle side of halfway. Davis using Sean Rudder, and Rudder saw half a gap and tried to sprint through. Played back for Hughes. 16 is Glenn Grief, one of the interchange players for the Knights. 25 metres out from the line there in the centre of the ground. Johns has got one to beat. Johns is going to make it. Andrew Johns, the magnificent. Andrew Johns is a freak. How can anybody come back from what he endured early in this game and yet do what he's done?
Well, I haven't been around a long time, but he is the best I've ever seen. He's just done it all himself there. He was caught 10 out. He still got through another two defenders. There was nothing on, absolutely nothing on. A right foot step takes him through the Bonetti tackle. He is about to be tackled here by a couple of Roosters defenders, Phillips and Crocker, and somehow manages to push his way through. And don't forget, not so long ago, he put one over from the sideline with the boot. There is nothing he cannot do in the game of rugby league.
Have a look at that giant right foot step. He's beaten two defenders there. He's been potting goals from all around the field. He is amazing, this bloke. Honestly, I probably know him as well as anyone, and he still amazes me every time he plays. Knocked out to boot. And to beat Luke Phillips, who was one of the defenders there, was just amazing.
No, he's back with us.
He's okay.
He knows where he is, Ravs.
He's playing with the crowd now. He's okay. We can take him out of intensive care anyway.
Now he'll probably miss this conversion.
That is just one of the more freakish things I've seen in rugby league happen in the last 30 minutes of this game as he converts his own try. The best player in the game, Andrew Johns, has taken his team to 16-6 as we take a break. And a welcome to our networks overseas taking this telecast, and I'm sure you're just as amazed as we are at some of the things this Andrew Johns can do. As we welcome back our networks taking the final series, emanating from the Nine Network in Sydney, exclusively through Australia on the Nine Network, the wide world of sports. 20 metres out from their line, Newcastle leading 16-6, but Peter Sterling raised a point earlier, which is a sort of a nightmare for the Knights. It was 16-2 when they went to the break last year in the match that would have taken Newcastle to the grand final, and they got run over like a steam train.
26-20 they went down, Ray, and I've got to say that despite the fact they trailed by 10 points after half an hour, I like what I see from the Roosters so far. There is a long way to go in this game, and they know they are right up in this match with a great chance of winning as Minicello throws the ball back in. Call play on, good work. Goes centre field, but the chase is strong again.
That was very clever from Minichiello. Johns will be disappointed he didn't find the line, but gee, it's hard to stop what this young winger from Sydney Roosters did there. He scored the try earlier, then he showed another touch of cleverness there. Not easy to do. Here's Widders, bound for Parramatta Stadium next year.
And he's a bloke who caused all sorts of problems for the Eels last week, as Fittler determinedly stays inside his own 40. Was obviously going for a 40-20, but didn't kick the ball where he wanted to. And O'Davis gathers again. More movement on the bench. Paul Marquardt about to come into the fray, as is Darren Albert from dummy half.
Strange there from Fittler. He on purpose got himself back inside the 40, and then he kicked it 20 metres in from the sideline. Change over of possession. That's an error again for Newcastle. Fletcher this time. And an offload down to Fittler. The F Troop. Talking of the F Troop, is another one of them, Flannery.
Newcastle Knights making plenty of mistakes there, as you saw before, but isn't it great to be able to have a person like Darren Albert come off the bench for the Newcastle Knights? He is a game breaker and good in defence as well.
Fittler then, inviting the defence to him. Wings pass, it goes to ground, picked up by McDougall. And Adam will play the ball 20 metres out from his own line on the zero tackle. This is Mark Hughes.
Really unlucky there, Craig Wing. Brilliant acceleration, meant that he was able to attract two defenders and open up a hole. Ball went to ground as O'Brien finds support in O'Davis. He hurdles the players before Crocker wrestles him to ground. 40 out, centre field.
Rudder.
Three now, let him go now. Quickly, Simon, get out.
So Rudder's gone, I would imagine, into the forwards. Gidley into number 6, Albert onto the wing. Is that pretty much the mix, Chief?
Yeah, that looks to be the mix, mate.
Here's Johns again. He had Kennedy with him, and then he lost Kennedy, who got tangled up in the net of defence. And then Badeiras kicks it back in a sort of Ricky Stewart type of kick. The bounce wasn't all that friendly for the Roosters. Penalty goes to them anyway.
Yeah, Adam McDougall coming in late, using the forearm. There's a nice tackle by Mark Hughes on the fullback, who is still down, hurt after this tackle. Hughes comes in low. The job is done, and now McDougall has been penalised for this. Coming in late, leading with the forearm.
He's got him more or less in the back of the head.
Adam, start looking for
And the way they've come down on players using that forearm in more recent times,
now lift him up.
it may come back to haunt McDougall. I don't particularly think there's a great deal in it, though. This is Crocker, but then again, I didn't think there was much in a couple of the others. From Bonetti, it's gone to Fletcher. Fletcher has got the 40-metre line in his sights as he's tackled. Steve Walder's brother Kevin would be able to commentate on that score in rugby league as he convalesces. Kevin, played by Bonetti, wing across for Fittler. Fittler puts a kick in, and it's given Darren Albert a bit of a jog down to the 10-metre line. He's got Robbie O'Davis over with him on his left, but Albert goes for the full petrol and takes it out to the 20-metre line.
Move him one, to me, look.
Well, the Newcastle Knights got all their bench on. Paul Marquardt, O'Brien, Griff and Albert.
Tahu! Tahu's in space! Tahu's got the fullback to beat! Tahu! Tackled by Phillips. Now that's a legal tackle. He hit the ground, and Tahu wisely played the ball. Now it's O'Davis. They're inside the 20-metre line. He wasn't onside, the tackler. It's a penalty to Newcastle.
And players appreciate advantage being played, and Bill Harrigan is doing a good job in that area tonight. Tamana Tahu, he backed himself. Good on him. He's a great young talent. But Luke Phillips, he was up to it. The second try-saving tackle tonight. The first on McDougall, the second on the other winger, Tamana Tahu. Now playing in the centres. He comes, just gets the foot. And Tahu, as Ray pointed out, intelligently didn't throw the ball, or he would have been penalised.
Absolutely, Peter. And you can add another. There's the penalty going, as the player offside is really exemplified by that slow-mo. You can add another tackle to that, Pete. What about Parsons front on, a metre from the line? So Phillips, it's reasonable to argue that he has saved 3 tries, the number 1 for Sydney Roosters. Now for 18-6, Johns. 18 in from touch, he never left the line with it. It was a perfect kick. A sea of red, white and blue. The Newcastle flags are flying. 18-6, Steve Walters, sideline.
Yeah, I've got to agree with Sterlo. I don't think the Roosters have been that bad. Knights have skipped away now with a 12-point lead there, but just a couple of passes haven't stuck. If they stick with it, they're still with a good chance.
Peter, I've got to say, interesting at half-time. There's only 4 minutes to go. The Knights be going in there knowing the last couple of games, the Roosters have come back from scores like this. And the Roosters, where most teams you would think that would be disappointed, would have a pretty smug feeling about them because they know they can come back.
I think that was one of the great things about this game, Paul, was the psychological battle as well. Plenty of talk about how the Knights haven't fared well against the Roosters in the last 2 seasons. A similar situation at half-time tonight, and it just augurs well for a very exciting second 40 minutes. Both sides will come out confident.
And combined with the fact that the Roosters took the Knights out of the competition last year, so there's plenty happening.
This is O'Brien now, part of the bench, which is totally out there now. This is going to bounce close to the sideline. Then it went, oh, it's done a dipsy doodle. McDougall's over. Oh, it's a nightmare for Minicello. That is very, very cruel. Oh, that is nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, we're just
going
to check, Ray, whether the chasers were onside. The crowd, they went up as one because they thought it was going to be a 40-20 kick from Andrew Johns. It was a wicked bounce denying that, but let's just have a look. Adam McDougall is the closest to you on that shot. He is very close to being offside.
Watch the other bloke that's on the 40-metre line, though, Pete. He has got some obligations to the rules as well, and he is offside.
Well, let's see if he gets involved within the 10. Kick goes down. I think that they probably wouldn't pull up Adam McDougall.
I think that's Paul Marquette, who was in the offside position.
No, that's he hasn't come into the play.
I think if they do anything, they'll rule McDougall in front of the kicker, and that would not surprise me.
Well, I'm just going back to a decision made a couple of weeks ago in favour of Brian Fletcher and Brad Fittler on a kick. That was ruled to be onside. If that was onside, so is this.
Well, there's the kick. It is going to be a line baller. That other player that I pointed out, he doesn't worry me too much.
Well, these calls are so close. What do? You get the slide rule out and measure it down to the millimetre? Or you do what Pete said, like what happened last time, and call it a try?
Well, Bill Harrigan has said offside.
Video referee is Chris Ward. Graham Murray, probably just too scared to look at it.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're 3 minutes out. This decision coming down now.
No try. No try and a penalty to restart. It's where the ball landed.
Well, we'll find out at half-time. It'll be interesting to see who that call was against. Was it against McDougall, or was it against, we think Paul Marquette was the other player in front?
18-6 then. Given all of that, though, poor old Minicello, he was turned inside out.
Marcus hold, get off!
Now Fletcher on his own 40-metre line, and we're drawing close to half-time. Crocker.
Get out there, Glenn, 3, quickly.
Ricketson.
Right, dominant, now get away, Glenn.
Allowing for a big comeback in the second half. A try there. Oh, gee, that's heavy. It might have been too big a lead for anybody to come back against it. Now Green. He puts a kick down into, I was about to say the in goal. It sat up and Albert is with it.
Get him now, one, fellas, get him off, Brad.
Ball security important. Back there on his own, really. John's got back to go dummy half. That's the 20-metre line. You look at that hit. Kennedy over the top on Fittler.
Well, Ray, we haven't had to wait till half-time. We've just received news that the call was against Adam McDougall. He was ruled to be in front of Andrew Johns.
This is O'Brien.
Play properly, let him up, Brian, 5 last.
Johns finding Flannery, guarding that touchline over on the eastern side. And Flannery is put down. Talking of ball security, that's what he's got to do right now, as they take a blindside play through the fullback Phillips. And Hegarty runs into some heavy work from Tahu and Badeiros. Now, I thought he might have penalised Newcastle's Badeiros there. It's come away to Green. Green puts it out in front of Minicello. Minicello does the same to Matt Singh. Matt Singh goes back to go around and come forward, and then he's picked up and pummeled 40 metres out from his own line. Green finding Ricketson operating up the middle to the halfway line. They're hitting like hammers at the moment. 5 gone against the Sydney Roosters. Green for Fittler. Fittler props and then puts a kick in purposefully inside the 20-metre line. O'Davis fields it and runs it back. Last minute of the first half, and what a sensational half it's been. It's had everything. Played by Albert. Now it's with Grief, and Grief is taken by Bonetti and Crocker.
They'd love to get down another 20 or 30 metres in these last 2 tackles to maybe give Johns an opportunity at field goal.
Johns taken here by Hegarty. Harrigan was checking his 10 metres. The crowd appealed for a high shot on Johns from Hegarty. I was watching Harrigan at the time, and he was checking his 10 metres. And the touch judge obviously didn't think there was anything in it. This is Phillips now, with the Roosters having last use of the football coming up to the break. And there it is. It probably didn't matter what you really wanted to see. It was all there, contained in a 40-minute capsule of rugby league. Some heart-stopping stuff. 18 points to 6 is the score. Newcastle leading the Roosters at half-time in the first of our double-header telecast tonight. At the end of this match, we'll take you to the showgrounds for Canterbury v St George Illawarra. Right now, we take you to a break, and then we bring you back for the second half. Can the Roosters come back like they did last year? Here's a break. And back at Marathon Stadium, the second half of the action about to get underway. Newcastle enjoying an 18 points to 6 lead. And it's an air of expectation here. People thinking that maybe the Roosters will do what they did last year and come back.
And Ray, both sides guilty of poor ball possession. There you can see the Newcastle flow courtesy of Tui's new. Look at the black error columns. They've created 10, and have a look at how many on or before the first tackle, half of them. So a pretty ordinary effort there from Newcastle, and a lot of those were in their own half. And for the Roosters, they haven't been any better. 11 from 20, a nice little start to the game there. That's the Minicello try, then a bad patch in the middle, and again, low black columns. That's the one thing that you don't want. Not a bad finish to the half, but both sides, a lot of improvement needed.
Let's have a look at the match stats, and you see that it's pretty even. The only thing that's probably a little bit of a difference is the missed tackles there with the Roosters. They've missed a few more tackles. Possession's pretty easy, but as Pete said before, the completion rate for both sides is way down.
Well, what's your gut feeling, Chief?
Well, I've got to say, I was with the boys on training yesterday. They've been burning all year about the Roosters and the way they came back from half-time on a few games. And look, they've been waiting for this second half. I've been waiting personally too. This first 10 or 15 minutes is going to be so important. It's a psychological warfare, and it's underway right now.
Off the boot of Brad Fittler. Second half of the show. And it is with Clinton O'Brien that it is brought back. First play of the second half, with the home side leading by 2 converted tries. And that is Paul Muckett on the 30-metre line. Now for Grief.
Doing go now, Simon. 3. Who we are doing? Yep.
Johns. I don't know whether the kick went askew or whether in fact he aimed it across that way, but it was a good bounce for Minicello, something that he was on the both sides of the ledger with in the first half. One bounce was a beauty for him to score the try, and then the other one was an absolute mongrel of a bounce that we thought led to a try, but it didn't. Here's Widders.
Well, it was a poor kick from Andrew Johns.
That's 3.
It went askew and not given possession to the Roosters almost in their own half straight away. That's the 4th tackle. Hegarty out of dummy half.
4. Come on, Danny.
So good field position early on as Fittler tries to get an attacking raid going across field.
Running for a long time before he actually finds the defence and then offloads for Fletcher to take the tackle.
Sean on side.
And it is played 25 metres out. Green tried to put a little kick over the top of McDougall. McDougall was ready and waiting. Now McDougall comes across the park. He bumps away from 2.
Get him up there, quickly.
Tackle 25 out from his own line. The other winger now, Darren Albert.
Quickly, 2.
Sean Rudder. And Rudder running the play straight at Shannon Hegarty. Has got within 8 metres of the halfway line. Tamana Tahu.
Interesting with the Knights, they've started with all 4 reserves. They haven't started with their starting team, so looking to conserve some energy there.
Kennedy.
5.
Roosters
Marker, don't go early.
marking up.
Here. Hold.
No overlap out there. 5th tackle called for Newcastle. And Johns, with the breeze favouring him, puts a kick up that bounces just inside the touchline. Minicello was looking at it and thinking to himself, oh, geez, I've been here before. Took the gamble. Well, I don't suppose it really was a gamble when I think about it, because they're going to get the loose head and feed now. But what if it had have done a dipsy doodle and gone back in field like that earlier one I'm referring to? Steve Walters is back from the shed. Steve, your halftime report.
Yeah, first of all, from the Knights camp, Coach Michael Hagan, his major concern there was a completion rate, as you'd expect from the mistakes, and he thought they just turned over too much possession and it was going to be costly if they did it again in the second half. He also thought they had a few problems shutting down the Roosters around the ruck, particularly in the first 3 plays, so he wanted them to address that. On the other side, Graham Murray and the Roosters, first thing he did was remind the guys about the semi-final last year. They were in a similar situation. They came back, and you see him coming forward now. He wanted them to improve their ball control. He thought that they could get a couple of back-to-back sets and score a try. They're right back in the match.
Well, here they are with an overlap on the right of the ground, but the ball goes into touch. They had numbers out there. They dilly-dallied getting out there. Matt Singh's pass going into touch finally.
Well, the ball control for both teams has been clumsy, to say the least, and that ball looks like it just slipped out of his hands. I was going to ask that question before, whether the ball is a little bit dewy out there, a bit slippery, because there's just been too many balls going down.
Chance here for Newcastle. Gidley. Davis using Rudder, and then a beautiful pass. Tahu's got Albert with him, won't need him, and Tamana Tahu goes in to score for the Knights. What a pass! Who was it? Rudder. I think it was Sean Rudder. He has put a beautiful ball onto Tahu.
Yeah, Sean Rudder. There's been a lot of pressure on Sean this year, playing in the halves. And look at the quality of this ball, getting Tahu on the outside of his man. We freeze it there. You can see Tahu is going straight to his man. As the ball is coming, he'll actually change direction as play continues and get outside his man. Beautiful work. Don't forget, this bloke had an operation on his calves only a month ago, and now he's crossing in a qualifying final and putting his side 16 in front. Rudder has been a star for the Knights this year on a number of occasions. Very underrated player for mine.
I'll tell you what, Pete, he is a superstar in the making, and everyone here at the Newcastle Knights knows that. He's a great athlete. I've only had to wait 3 or 4 minutes for the first try. We spoke before about how important it is to get a great start here for the Knights and for the Roosters as well. But this young bloke, a great talent. Watch out for him for more in the second half. He'll be heavily involved.
So Tamana Tahu gets his 17th try of the year. He'd be a contender for the Kangaroos, because this final series is so important this year. Mainly the players involved in the final series will make up the Kangaroo party, and Tamana would have to be one of those. From 22 out, 3 in from touch for Johns to make it another couple of points, but it hits the upright and bounces away. So the scoreline in the second half reads Newcastle 22, the Roosters 6. 46th minute of the game as we go to a break.
Stay behind.
back on our coverage of the first of our double-header matches here on the Wide World of Sports tonight. Coming up after this game, we'll take you to the Sydney Showgrounds for the Bulldogs versus Dragons clash. That'll be a ripper of a game. They come together again 7 days after they went through it all before. Few players back though. It might be a different result. Kennedy plays it on his own 40-metre line. Now the Roosters have to dig deep to get back into this game. They're down 22 points to 6, played by Johns. Now it's Clinton O'Brien. Eels versus Warriors tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock in Sydney. Now it's with Johns again. He puts a grubber kick over there onto the sideline, 10 metres out from the corner post.
I've got to say that's probably the ultimate semi-final football set of 6 you could have, Pete, couldn't you, from coming from your own half. Great go forward, a nice little kick at the end there.
No, I disagree, Chief. I reckon the ultimate one.
Probably score a try, yes.
Try at the end of it.
Apart from scoring a try, it's pretty darn good.
I know there's a long time to go in this game, but we spoke about the nervous wait for the Broncos having been beaten last night. Of course, it's worse for the Roosters if they go down, for them to stay alive into the second weekend of the finals. Those teams underneath them after the 26 rounds, who are the Dragons and the Warriors, both have to get beaten. So they won't know their fate if they're rolled tonight until late tomorrow afternoon after the Parramatta Stadium match.
Penalty goes against Newcastle. The tackler has come up with the foot. It looks like it was Matthew Gidley. The number 3, yeah, he's come up with the foot, trying to slow the tackle down. Question the value of that, don't you, when you've got your opponents back inside their own red zone and you give away a dumb penalty, because that's all it is. It's just a dumb penalty. You're not hurting them really. Widders now. He will play the ball. 33 metres out from their own line. And Hegarty is ridden into the ground. Newcastle staying on their toes. As Chief Harrigan said, they've been burning, waiting for this opportunity to present itself again.
Well, we've raised that match plenty of times tonight, the grand final qualifier of last year. The way the Roosters got in front in that match was going wide and putting the outside centre and winger in two minds as to what to do. Now, it's not happening tonight because the Knights are actually sliding. You can see there both the 4 Mark Hughes and 5 Adam McDougall. They allowed their men to get on the outside, but they slid. They're not rushing in as they did last year.
Fittler's kick actually went backwards. It's come down to Flannery and it'll be a turnover.
Well, Freddie Fittler is the key link here. If they are to come back to Roosters, he's going to get more involved. And every time they've done it in the past, he's been heavily involved. Freddie Fittler is the key for sure.
Kennedy now. McDougall. Another surging run. Well, what a night he's having, Mad Dog. Gidley catch and pass. Tahu catch and pass. I thought it was Michael Cronin. Now it's Albert. 30 metres out from the Sydney Roosters line. Clinton O'Brien.
Well, Wendell Saylor had an absolute blinder last night. Adam McDougall not letting him get away.
Gidley. Kennedy went without it. So the scrum will pack down, the ball going forward off Kennedy. And the scrum will pack down on the 20-metre. Look at this run. Look at this effort, this extra effort from Adam McDougall.
No, Paul, they're not even packed, mate. Too quick.
This is an inspiring performance from him.
Ben.
25 metres out then from their own line. Fittler. Widders. And Widders running at rudder. And Grief and Gidley. And they combine to put him down. This is Shannon Hegarty doing the light stepping. Offloads 9-3. Played there by Craig Wing, and now it's found Paul Green, then Ricketson. Phillips has gone without it. It seemed to come forward off him, back to Cusack. The crowd, by the sound of them, agreeing with my view of it, as it goes from Green, and it's in the in goal. O'Davis watches it. Maybe the referee saw it and ruled that he wasn't playing at the football, which of course is that new rule. And here is the pass from Ricketson. It goes off Phillips. I've got no doubts it comes off Phillips, who absolutely played
McDougall
it.
away.
Now they make another break. It's that man again. It's Adam McDougall losing his footing as he tries to change course. Plays the ball 30 metres out from the Roosters line. Blindside play. Johns' tackle. 19 from the line. Now it's with Grief. And Grief is picked up and dumped on the ground. Crocker the tackler with wing. Back for Medeiros to find O'Davis. Then on to Gidley. Steps off his right foot twice, 3 times, and he's over. Once, twice, thrice, and Gidley goes in for the Knights.
Well, this is the first time that Michael Hagan has been able to field his full star-studded back line, and they are making bust at will. Adam McDougall is on fire. I've got to give a rap to Andrew Lomu. The big number 10, he'll come into shot in a moment. That's a great chase from the front rower. But at the end of this, as we saw Andrew Johns do on the first half, just pure individualism. Stepping back on the inside, players grasping instead of driving in with the shoulder. And Gidley, who's been under pressure this year, there's been some criticism of his on-field performances. Well, he's come up with a 5-star one tonight. This is his second 4-pointer.
What you don't want to be is a front rower or a second rower 2 metres out from your own try line with Matthew Gidley coming towards you. Amazing feat there, but we spoke before about the importance of this second half. With every minute that goes by, pressure for the Roosters there, but the Newcastle Knights, as I said before, they've been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. Andrew Johns ready for a kick.
Well, that's more like the Matthew Gidley that I was watching prior to this year and the broken ankle. Johns converts. Newcastle, they're not turning around. They're not looking back. It is a big, big lead, 28-6 after 53 minutes now. Fiddle starts again. Big kickoff through the uprights, the crossbar. Little magpie flying across the ground, almost got trod on by Billy Peden. Sidestepped the magpie. That's how quick he is, Peden. Now it's Grief. That is the 20-metre line. They're down their own end of the park. 28-6 and 6 changes Newcastle, 7 changes Roosters. And they use a little blindside play, but Tahu loses his footing. I'm just wondering, Chief, whether a word you used earlier might be the case with this ground. There might be a bit of dew down there. There's a few players losing their footing.
I think there's been too much drop ball and loose footing there for it to be a dry track. I think it's a bit dewy down there for sure.
So the Knights off the boot of Robbie O'Davis, but gee, it's a bigger kick than I thought O'Davis possessed. And on the kick return, it's the other number 1, Phillips. Brought down inside his own 40-metre line. Great crowd here. The ground record, I think I pointed out to you earlier, is 30,000 odd, 32,642. Newcastle v Manly back in 1995. And I thought this was about mid-20s tonight. And the crowd figure is, in fact, 22,000 odd.
Well, Peter, I've got to ask you a question. As far as the Roosters are concerned, if they're going to get back in this match, now's the right time. What have they got to do?
Well, they'd love to get some consecutive sets. At the moment, they're not getting enough possession at the right end of the field. And I suppose that they've just got to have enough belief that they can score the points when the opportunities present themselves. And they're not playing that badly. I think they're just playing as well as the opposition is allowing them to. And at the moment, the individual skills of Newcastle is superior.
36 missed tackles by the Roosters now. That's climbed up to an alarming proportion for Coach Graham Murray. Here's Parsons, who did a bit of the spade work early on in the game. Now Medeiros, and it's now with Kennedy. Kennedy just into Roosters territory. 8-8 the interchanges. Just looking at this side on the park tonight, Paul, and I'm trying to think of players that are out injured. Is this the stronger side you've got, the stronger 17?
Yeah, it is. Bailey is the only player that's out for us. He's got a broken arm, but it's our strongest side. And there's nothing more we can ask for coming in the semi-final. We can pack a full team like that. With Darren Albert on the bench, I think that says it all.
So this is Morley now, who figured in what was a sensational opening to this game. He got up to play the ball. There's the ball coming out in the tackle. It didn't. Well, he's penalised for a rake out. I didn't think that there was a steal in it.
I think Lomu was looking to get an arm free to offload.
Let's have a look at Lomu. There's no sign of, well, there was a hand on the ball, but he looked like he was trying to tackle the player.
Well, how can you penalise a bloke for making a tackle?
5-3 the penalties in favour of the Roosters, but it's not doing them any good on the scoreboard. They're behind by 22 points now. From Craig Wing to Paul Green. He dummies back on the inside and then finishes up coming back that way to find Lomu. Lomu gets a one-handed pass to Flannery. Flannery for Green. Green then for Fitzgibbon. Fitzgibbon taken by Kennedy and Badeiros. And he's held 10 metres out from the line as they come back on the blind side. Wing back for Hegarty, who tries to make ground up the middle, but Kennedy makes the tackle. Fitzgibbon to the right for Green. Green for Fittler. Fittler goes back looking for Luke Phillips, finds him. He gets it back to Paul Green. They're back on the 20-metre line. Now it's back to Crocker. Crocker goes through. Crocker's away. Crocker's over the line. Was there referee interference? The boys in the box have gone up.
What's going to happen here?
Well, Michael Crocker, after his side had been forced back 20 metres, has put the foot down, and we're coming back to a scrum.
Yeah, well, when a referee interferes with what he believes the passage of play, and he interferes with the defensive side, then he is empowered to take this action. And of course the Roosters get the feed. So that's what Bill Harrigan has done. He's felt that he impeded Newcastle sufficiently to come back to where we are now. It's Ricketson. And they are 3 metres out from the line. Attacking the northern try line, the Roosters. And obviously they have to be the next to score. Fittler gave a short pass to Luke Phillips, and Phillips is slammed into the ground. Crocker for Lomu. Lomu goes without it.
0.
Well, it was just a total misunderstanding there.
Well, that was the ideal opportunity for the Roosters. The first time they'd been able to get 2 sets of 6 together in their opponent's 20. Now Darren Albert relieves with a tremendous dummy half run of 15 metres. And we've seen some bizarre incidents in this game, and that's just another one to add. Crocker fending off Harrigan, missed tackle Harrigan, no try scrum.
Simpson. Right on the Telstra sign, the NRL Telstra logo displayed prominently during the final series as O'Davis is desperately held by Fitzgibbon. Now Johns puts it out on the full. So it'll be a turnover going to the Roosters. With about 21 minutes of the game to go, 28-6. The Knights in front. They've extended their halftime lead of 18-6. And it is now starting to border on the need of a miracle as Crocker plays it on the halfway line. Singh gives it on to Ricketson. Ricketson taken down by Parsons and by Simpson. Completion rate 66 and a little bit percent there for the Newcastle side. Not quite as good for the Roosters.
Ray, I can see some points in the Roosters outfit, but I don't know if I can see a point a minute. And that's where we're at now as Fittler finds Green.
Green kicking across towards Minicello's wing. Minicello's coming fast. It'll go out to the 20-metre line for the restart. They left it as long as they could, the Knights, and they left it long enough.
Well, I've got to give Paul Green a rap here. It's his only second game back from injury, and he's adding a lot more options to the Roosters here. Nice little kick. If they're going to come back, Blakes like him and Freddie Fittler have got to make the difference. Good little player. There he is.
Great year for this man, Danny Badeiros. Got his green and gold jumper and made every post a winner with it. Hughes going over towards that sideline, 40 metres out from his own line. As McDougall again comes up with the football. he'd be right up there in contention for the awards tonight, I would imagine. McDougall, it's not that often that wingers turn in performances like this, but it's been an outstanding effort tonight by Adam McDougall. Here's Parsons now, 33 metres out from the line. They go back to Johns on the short side, and Johns is tackled, put down by Crocker. Johns is having a little bit of trouble with that groin. The right groin is the one that's giving him the trouble. This kick from Rudder sees a contest over on the far side. Flannery is there, and Flannery comes down with it for the Roosters just inside his own 20-metre line. Fitzgibbon. And there's the opposition half occupancy. And the Knights in front on that statistic by some 12%, something like that, 12% I think it was. Played by Fittler. Now it is Craig Wing. And certainly there's the bench, the Newcastle bench. A few running repairs taking place there. And that's come down off a Newcastle hand. And it's play on for the Roosters. He hasn't restarted the tackle count because the player in question wasn't playing at the football. He was trying to make a tackle.
It was Matt Gidley-Ray going in to make the tackle. Getting a good call from Harrigan. Long kick from Fittler. Tahu is back there on his own 10. O'Davis in support. And another good one here. Look at
Tahu! Tahu, he's got one try. Comes to Luke Phillips. Well, what a night. What a night the number one for the Roosters has had. You wouldn't envy the job, but he's done it so well. Mark Hughes, 25 metres out from the Roosters line. Newcastle, the fans are calling for the guillotine. It's gone to O'Davis, who runs down the short side to the 10-metre line. Now from Kennedy, it went to McDougall after Hughes had handled, and it's gone back to the Roosters now.
And McDougall has stayed down hurt, as you can see. And with his placement close to the play of the ball, Bill Harrigan has called timeout.
That seemed to be the only contact with McDougall. The Roosters defender getting his hands around his neck and then at his left ear. I thought he might have got a problem with one of the eyes there, but he's getting to his feet. Well, they seem to have them at their mercy then. And this crowd at Marathon Stadium, some people call it the Coliseum. It reminded me of that.
Well, it's been a great effort so far for the Knights, because the Roosters will basically have won 4 out of the last 5 games here. They're not too, well, they treat it with contempt a little bit. They enjoy coming here. So Mick Hagan will be pleased with that. He'll also be pleased with the defence. They've scored plenty of points, but only let the one try in. He'll be most pleased with that.
This is Morley on his own 20-metre line. Through from Green. It's found Fitzgibbon now.
That's 3. Let that leg go.
Just inside the 30-metre line. Fletcher. Craig Wing, I was about to say, has been playing well the last few weeks. I just fancy that they have got better service from him, or better impact from him coming off the bench. This is the 5th tackle as they go from Green out to Fittler's boot. Badiris tries to put some pressure on Fittler. It's with O'Davis. Fittler putting everybody on side as he went down the ground via the shortest route. And O'Davis will play it there just inside his own 30-metre line. To Manatahu. 28-6. And 16 minutes of the game to go. With Bill Peden. To the halfway line, O'Davis, and now for Mark Hughes. And Hughes just gaining a few more metres, putting themselves into opposition territory for Big Parsons to lumber forward. He mightn't be travelling at a lot of speed, but he's taking a lot of juice out of them when they're required to tackle him. Simpson has tackled, and it's the turnover. So there was a breakdown in communications there somewhere, or somebody lost the counter. You don't want the ball dying with blokes like Simpson and Parsons. Although I suppose at 28-6, it doesn't matter that much. But now they should be probably just fine-tuning, fine-honing for the next step up in this intriguing battle for the premiership. You can make a story for so many of them, can't you? You can think maybe the Parramatta will win it, but then there's a story for Canterbury, and so it goes on. Newcastle. Fittler now from halfway for Widders, and Widders tackled just inside the 40-metre line. Harrigan's hand in the air, fifth tackle, and Fittler on the blind side, kicking, looking to regather O'Davis. O'Davis takes it, beats Fittler, and then he's buckled over and put away by Crocker. Back on the Newcastle 20-metre line. Here's McDougall. Puts his hand up for work tonight. Johns and Gidley combining now. Gidley with the ball. 233 tackles for Newcastle. Not much fewer for Sydney Roosters.
I like the way the Newcastle forwards have played tonight, Ray. Been a lot of one-out stuff, but I've always thought that they needed a little bit more of that. I know they're very flamboyant from 1 through to 17, but in these big games, sometimes you're better off just taking the tough meters, as Matt Parsons has done very well tonight, and save the passes for the outside guys and later in the match. And they've done that well tonight. They've set a really good platform.
They have too, Pete, and Matty Parsons has been right up there, along with Clinton O'Brien and Glenn Grief. Had a great game there in the go forward.
So the ball put over that sideline for a scrum to form. Let's go to the sideline. Steve Walters working with us tonight.
Yeah, Andrew John setting the tone there. And great opportunity for the Knights now. They've had a problem this year with conceding tries in the second half, particularly the last 20 minutes of matches. Even though they probably put this one away, they really need to push themselves right through for the 40 minutes with the finals coming up next couple of weeks.
Scrum won by the Roosters. And we find Phillips coming into his back line. Peden and Johns making the tackle. Matt Singh. A couple of little things have happened in the Matt Singh game tonight that are quite rare. He's one of those very safe players. He comes with a written guarantee, Matt Singh, but a couple of little things have come into his game tonight that he won't be happy with. Here's Fletcher now with the ball.
Ray, just to emphasise what Steve Walters was talking about, in the second half of matches this year, Newcastle have conceded 66 tries, the Roosters 40. So the Roosters have been just about the best in the NRL, the Knights the worst. And that's something they've turned around. Intercept, Gidley, can he get 3?
The chasers coming across. They want the ball back in the middle. He does that. He answers the call. But Badiris, has he got the pace? No, he hasn't. They decided to track him, and they ran Badiris down. Now it goes from Rudder. A wide ball. McDougall, he'll get there. McDougall's over. 70-metre try, starting with an intercept from Tamana and ending on the other side of the ground with Mad Dog McDougall, 32-6.
Well, the pass always had intercept written on it. Paul Green throwing a wide ball. Matt Gidley coming up. Didn't have the speed. Luke Phillips coming across the game. What would the score have been tonight if Luke Phillips hadn't have been the custodian for the tricolours? He saw that the inside pass was to go. Danny Badiris. He's played plenty of halves. He's got good speed. And then it was just a matter if we freeze it there. Let's just have a look. One defender, this man coming back, and we've got 4 Knights, and as play continues, it was just a matter of McDougall with a player on the outside to go to the line, always going to score.
Well, that try from Adel cap off a great game, but I tell you what, the Newcastle Knights, they scored 134 tries going into this game, which is a club record. They can score tries to boot. That was a great effort there. And I tell you what, as I said before, defensively, tonight's been probably one of their best efforts for a long time. And the other interesting fact too, if one of the top 2 teams lose, the Newcastle Knights could go through to round 3 and have a break next week, so they'll be looking for that one too.
Well, this is a shame. Luke Phillips is coming off. He's got either an arm or a shoulder problem, but in a side that has been soundly trounced, hasn't he been outstanding? Johns, 5 metres in from touches, just outside the 20-metre line in front of that hill crowd on the eastern side of Marathon. His performance tonight, Andrew Johns, is just something that I'm so glad I was here to see. Just a wonderful moment. And he converts not only the goal, but he converts. A wonderful night for him and his club. 34 points to 6 as we go to a break. 10 minutes to go.
That is goal number 7 to Andrew Johns.
Stay behind,
This
fellas.
flight 79 34, the Roosters 6 here at Marathon Stadium.
And we are back from the break with a reminder not to leave us, because when we wrap this game up
Stand all
and
the way
we
up, Josh. One.
tell you who the man of the match is, we will take you down to the Sydney Showgrounds for the match between the Canterbury Bulldogs and the St George Illawarra Dragons.
Bit better than that.
They lock horns again. I think the last time they played at the Showgrounds, the Dragons beat them. But then, of course, a week ago, the Dogs got the Dragons. Tomorrow, of course, the Eels, the Premiership favourites, take on the Warriors. Brian Smith's got some problems with sickness and injury. Here's McDougall again in a 5-star performance. Johns from Parsons to Rudder, knocked on by Gidley. My apologies to Matthew. I gave Tamana the credit for the intercept earlier. It was Matthew. And it's good to see him back somewhere near his best form, Pete. I think most people would agree that the Australian centres both were down a bit on form.
Well, I think Matt would realise that he probably hasn't played his best football.
Come on, Ben,
But
quickly.
it's an ominous sign for all other centres
In.
left in this competition. I know it won't happen, Ray, but gee, you'd be tempted if you were Michael Hagan to try and talk Andrew Johns into having this last 7 or 8 minutes off. He has struggled with his groin at times. Of course, he was badly knocked about in the opening minutes of this game. Now, he's the kind of player when you can, you try and put him in cotton wool, but they won't talk him out of this match.
Two. Let him
How do you
up
put
now.
his effort into, or how do you categorise it? It's just been amazing. He carries so much pressure coming into every game because he is the key player. You can't even knock him out. He proved that tonight. He's just an amazing player. Here we go with a bit of a break on the sideline.
Minicello down the right side, kicks, tries to get it to go back in field. He does that. Now McDougall comes up with the ball. Now McDougall's got Craig Wing chasing. He beats Craig Wing. He gets back into the field of play. Now, Bill Harrigan said no.
I think he's pointing back to the dead ball line that he put his foot on it. There he goes to emphasise the fact.
Well, here's Minicello working in limited space. McDougall and Bill Harrigan fancies that he... Yes, he
There it
did.
is.
He's trodden on the dead ball line. Line drop out. 7.5 minutes of the game to go. And it is a penalty in front of the uprights for the Sydney Roosters, out on the full. Fittler, Fitzgibbon, an offload for Hegarty. Hegarty
He's held it. Let him up.
trying to
Hands
pass it, couldn't get it away. Fittler finding Morley. There it is on the ground, and the scramble for the ball is won by Newcastle. Simpson, Kennedy, one change each left, and it's gone forward. So a scrambled pack, and the Roosters will have the feed and the loose.
Well, a couple of passes there thrown by both teams that weren't needed. Firstly, Adrian Morley trying to offload. Nobody was ready for it, and that time, Ben Kennedy to an unsuspecting Andrew Johns.
He hit the ground. You got it, Simon.
Errors show Newcastle making just a couple more, but they're not worried about that when they look at the scoreboard by comparison. Here's Wing running, then angling. Then the bat down has gone to Robbie O'Davis. Roosters snatching at the ball, and it finished up with O'Davis. And this is Clinton O'Brien. Glenn Grief almost knocking on.
Two. Here we are.
Billy Peden
That's three. Quickly to this
to
line,
the
fellas.
40-metre
Hold this
line with about 5.5 minutes of the game remaining. Kennedy, and Kennedy is on the halfway line.
Come on, Ben. On this line, Brian.
Kennedy looking at Harrigan, looking at the touch judge before getting up and playing the ball. O'Brien,
Hold. 5 line.
fifth tackle. Johns steps away, then puts a kick in. He'll put another kick on it, which he did. The ball into the end goal. Hegarty's there for the Roosters, and he puts it over the dead ball line in front of O'Davis.
And again, evidence of what the Newcastle Knights have done so well tonight. Turned something from nothing. Last tackle, Johns put the little one through, then kicked it long, and Robbie O'Davis, plenty of pressure on Shannon Hegarty to make sure they get another set of 6 courtesy of the line drop out.
Yeah, they haven't slackened up all game. I just want to mention Darren Albert. He is on the sideline at the moment, but it is his last home game. He's done a great start for Newcastle Knights, and obviously 1997 was a great time for him. But Darren Albert, one of the best last home game.
Johns finding Gidley. Gidley, the ball going across the ground, and it's Widders who puts it on the boot. It's going over towards the sideline, and in fact goes into touch back on the Newcastle 40-metre line.
It will be a Newcastle.
Dean Widders, just for a moment, looked like he might have created some opportunities for himself, and then when he puts the big kick on it, eventually he sends it over the touchline and giving nobody a chance.
I like his style. He's only 21, the big fella. He's got plenty of ability. Gets a good offload away and a fair turn of pace too there.
Said last week, Chief, that he gave the Eels all sorts of problems. It very much like David Solomona did when he was a Rooster. And no surprise that Brian Smith has actually swooped on this man as well. He'll be in the blue and gold colours next season.
Ball played by Sean Rudder here in the dying minutes of this game. So it's going to be, I guess, a reasonably long weekend for the Sydney Roosters as they sweat it out. And then if they do survive, it's back to the drawing board for Graham Murray. This is up around a 30-point margin now. There's a lot of rebuilding, a lot of rethinking to be done. As Johns fires a ball out, and it's been intercepted eventually by, on the far side of the ground, Minicello. Just beyond, in fact, it wasn't him, but in fact Craig Wing, as Dean Widders brings it back across the park, where Fittler sees that he's got an overlap on his left, and Flannery is now expected to go down the line. He got away from Tahu. Gidley's got him, puts him on the hurdy-gurdy, and he's tackled and forced to play the ball back to Fittler, 35 metres out from the Newcastle line, across to Hegarty. Hegarty onto Crocker. Crocker put down in the middle of the ground. Now from Bonetti for Green. Green turns it in for Fletcher. Fletcher finds the 20-metre line, but it's been a hard slog for the Roosters. There was a bright moment very early in the game as the ball is lost by Simon Bonetti and a scrum will pack down. That little window of opportunity for the Roosters was short-lived, as you see the ball going forward from Bonetti. No stranger to see dangling around the legs. Andrew Johns gets through enormous amount of work in both attack and defence. There's been halfbacks I've seen in final series, and the opposition will run play after play at them to tire them out in defence so that they haven't got the attacking venom that they normally have. I don't know whether that would apply to Andrew Johns. He would take it all, and he's
It certainly wouldn't. I think he's the Newcastle Knights' best defender, technique-wise, and with the big hits. He's just he's up there.
Simon, let him go.
Peden.
Roll off. Inside here, Mick. Good.
Simpson coming down the short side. There's just over a minute of this game to go, and reminding you that this is the first of our Rugby League finals doubleheader night. It's a great weekend for football, the opening weekend of the McIntyre system of the NRL finals. Cronulla in Brisbane last night. Here is Johns, the hero, comes to the last line. Away goes Ben Kennedy. Ben Kennedy goes in. Ben Kennedy scores. And is that elation or is that elation? They have sought revenge for 12 months and they are taking it. There goes another nail in the coffin.
Yeah, the victory will be extra sweet. Andrew Johns again, putting the step on. Just want to point out what he does here late. We freeze it there. You can see that he was running this line. Now he'll actually go this way to take the fullback further away from Ben Kennedy. And as play continues, he just makes it easy. He puts it on a platter for the big second rower. No chance for Minicello, once committed, to turn and chase and make the tackle. And Ben Kennedy, he has been absolutely outstanding week in, week out for the Knights.
Well, Andrew Johns had no right to make that initial break between three Roosters defenders, front rowers, and this bloke's capped off for a year, as Pete just said. He's been outstanding. He was shuttered away from the New South Wales team ever since. He's been playing fantastic football. Look at him. He's absolutely going off. A great win for the Newcastle Knights. They'll be ready for a big one next week, and maybe even the week after if the results go the right way for them.
So Glenn Grief is taking the conversion attempt of the Ben Kennedy try to cap off the night, and the chunky front row forward, he converts the try scored by the second row forward, set up by the chunkier number 7 Andrew Johns.
Well, that's because it's his last home game as well.
He might be the South Sydney goal kicker next year.
Really could be.
40 points to 6 at full time.